Hey everybody, this is Modern Refugee. How is everybody doing this evening? Say hello there to 1776 and my good friend and moderator, Monkey Food Garden. Appreciate you guys always being here. Hey there, Sunset. Good to see you. Just wanted to kind of talk a little bit about world happenings right now. There's just so much stuff going on, and there's some things that I'm really kind of concerned about. Gas did hit $4 a gallon here today locally. It went up even higher in some surrounding communities. The highest I've heard so far is 4.29. Hey there, dog. And 4.29 seems to be the highest I've seen. It's not quite to that point yet where we're at here. Hey there, Dana Green. So that's one thing. Hey there, Gallo. Hey, Dirt Farmer. Hopefully everybody's doing well, and hopefully everybody is still prepping. Little Red Hen. It is 3.79 here in Northwest Wyoming. That's good to know. I don't know what it is about the Midwest. The Midwest always has higher gas prices. And, we go up to the UP quite a bit. You go up to the UP, the gas is actually cheaper in the Upper Peninsula because I've been told that they bring it in through Wisconsin and the Lower Peninsula. A lot of that fuel is brought in by boat. There used to be a terminal in Bay City, Michigan, and that actually had a huge fire back in the 1990s, early 1990s, and it destroyed that terminal, and that was never really replaced. Hey there, Ambrose. Hey, Captain Jimmy. Hey, following the light. Gallo says 369 here in Western New York. That's good to know. Lake Lizard. YouTube Monkey Food Garden. YouTube doesn't like me. Bumped me as soon as the live started. Yeah, big surprise there. Yeah, YouTube doesn't like us preppers. I think that's pretty obvious. I do follow a another prepper over in the UK, Scottish Prepper 73, and he had a little video on there today that I was listening to on my break at work, and he said that there was a news broadcast or something, and he got into depth on that. I kind of wanted to talk about that. There was a guy that was some type of executive for BP, and the guy's name was Nick Butler, and apparently he was some kind of advisor to the government there in the UK. And he said in the news interview or broadcast, whatever it was, that they are basically not months but weeks away from some kind of fuel rationing in the UK because of what's going on in the Middle East right now. And I thought that that was significant, seeing how the UK is, they're basically a leader in Europe, and it's a first world country, and to see them, broadcasting something like that, I consider that as a pretty much a dire warning. So I definitely wanted to mention that. So anyway, Scottish Prepper 73, if you get a chance, check out that video that he put out. He was actually doing a live uh, when I checked earlier here, but that video that I'm talking about was only like 11 minutes, and I think it was well worth the 11 minutes to check that out. Um, Another thing, there are some, local people here from my local area that are basically trapped in Israel right now. And these folks are Palestinian Christians. And, you think when you think of the Middle East and stuff and all the religious, basically violence and stuff that's going on over there, these folks have, they, they are the persecuted of the persecuted, basically. That's basically why they left that area of the world and they came here to Michigan. And but they still have family over there, so occasionally, every so often, they'll go back over there to visit family. And well, now they're trapped. They can't get out, can't get flights, can't get nothing. They're basically stuck over there. So, as bad as things, can get, I would consider that as a really, really bad situation, that you're basically trapped in a war zone because you went to go see family. Under those circumstances, that's I think that's pretty rough. And then, of course, too, we have basically Marines heading to that area of the world right now, even as we speak. That's been going on for several days already. They've pulled Marines out of South Korea in the Far East, and they're shipping those guys to basically the Persian Gulf. And what I'm afraid of is there's going to be some type of military action to seize that Strait of Hormuz. And I thought that for a long time already, that they are going to try to take that strait, because there's several little islands and stuff that are around there. They're going to try to take that by force, and they're going to try to hold that to keep those shipping lanes open. And as far as I'm concerned, that's pretty much the worst case scenario of what's going on over there. And if that does take place, I think you're going to see a huge correction in the stock market. I've said it multiple times already. I expect, if this continues, gas not to be $4 a gallon, but to be $5 and $6 a gallon. And I can definitely see where that kind of stuff is possible at this point here. So I wanted to, kind of discuss that a little bit too. Hey there, Patriot Preacher. Hey there, Michigan Silverback. Good to see you. Hey there, Boss. Candace. Hey, Scottish Prepper. Good to see you, my friend. I was just discussing you there in your video that you put out today about that Nick Butler. I let everybody know about that they really need to watch that. That's probably about the most informative 11-minute video that I've seen all day, is that one that you put out. Hey there, Rip Curl. I appreciate you being here. Yeah, Sunset. We can work out something. I can try to get you an email there. Oh, let's see here. Hey, Michelle. Hey, Warrior Poet. Cheapest gas in California is $4.50. Yeah, I would almost bet if something pops off there within a week, we'll be $4.50 here in Michigan for sure. Anyway, that was something that if Marines go in, because that's what Marines do. Marines take islands, that's what they do. And when I seen them moving over there, you just look at a map of that Strait of Hormuz, all them little islands that are, kind of located around there. And that's a very narrow shipping lane. They don't, they always say, what is it, 20 miles across or whatever that it is, but there's only a couple of miles that they actually use, because there's inbound and outbound traffic in those shipping lanes. And I know that from living on the Great Lakes here. There's the Great Lakes are big, but the actual shipping lanes that they use, there's outbound and inbound shipping lanes, and that narrows down the corridors quite a bit. And what's the wind and weather down? Well, Big Boss, the wind's been terrible here pretty much for the last 4 or 5 days. We are on we're sort of in central northern Michigan here, and we are pretty decent where we're at here. We just lucked out. The heavy snow was north of us, so pretty much Houghton Lake. Houghton Lake is in the middle of the lower peninsula, basically, and everything north of Houghton Lake got hit with this storm big time. They shut down I-75, like huge tracks of I-75 completely shut it down. The upper peninsula is still digging out, and those folks know snow up there, and they are just shut right down. There are power outages all over again in the northern lower peninsula and across the UP. There is just, and most places got, in the upper peninsula, most places got 24 to 30 inches of snow. Our friends up where they're at up there, they got 30 inches. And today was the first day that they actually got out and went to work a little bit. So that was the first time in like 4 days that pretty much anything has moved. So there is a lot of people that are still digging out up there. That's a crazy storm that we had there again. Sunset, Monkey Food Garden did put a link in there for Scottish Prepper's channel. It's Scottish Prepper 73. Hey there, Coney, how you doing? The cheapest down there in South Louisiana is $3.32. And another thing, now that I mentioned that about Houghton Lake, the Walmart at Houghton Lake a couple of days ago, they actually had a boom threat up there, and that is something that's kind of unusual. And then there's been certain people around here that were in like corporate jobs that we sort of know about, and a couple of these people just up and quit in the last few days here. Extremely unusual. And being higher up in the corporate world, we were kind of talking about that, and me and my inner circle here, and they think that there's going to be some type of economic problems coming down the line because of what's going on, because these people have lots and lots of money in 401ks, and if there's a massive correction in the stock market, that's why we're thinking maybe these folks were jumping out so they can kind of lock in some of their stuff. And this stuff was all just right out of the blue, and we thought that was extremely unusual. And another thing that's bothering me is just medication. And I had so many people commenting on a couple of those videos that I did here just recently about that they can't get extra medication. Their insurance doesn't allow it, and their doctor doesn't allow it, or the pharmacy won't allow it. And I'm here to tell you right now, everybody should have multiple pharmacies that they deal with, and they need to go to smaller independent pharmacies. Chain pharmacies are their leashes are being held by the big insurance companies, and they will discourage people trying to get extra refills on their prescriptions and whatnot, where there's a little bit more leeway if you go to small town mom and pop pharmacies. And that's what I do. And my wife's medication and my medication that we have to take isn't that much. It's in the $20 to $40 price range if we pay cash for it. And some of that stuff I tell the pharmacist, don't even put that through the insurance anymore. We just pay cash for it. That way, we can stockpile a 3 or 4 month supply, because we'll get the refills from our primary care provider, and then we just go and we purchase those outright. And I just tell the pharmacy the truth. I want to have a little bit extra on hand in case something happens. And they're like, nope, that sounds like a good enough plan to me. We'll just run it through cash, and bing, bam, boom, I have an extra prescription, or my wife has an extra prescription. And that's basically how we do it. And I have tried that before at the large chain pharmacies, and they won't do it. They just won't do it. Oh, they have some more excuses than a pregnant nun. They'll say, oh, that's against our policy, or it's against the insurance, or whatever. And I don't want to hear excuses. I want results. I'm kind of a results driven prepper, I guess. But anyway, I wanted to mention that. Weather's been good there for you, Rip Curl. That's good to see. Oh yeah, definitely prayers for the folks up in the UP. Our friends up in the UP, we've been in contact with them because they basically haven't been able to get out of their house. Crazy Mountain people, good evening. Apologies, be a few minutes late. No problem. Glad to have you here. Ambrose, it is 3:49 in Barron County. Keep them filled up. Keep it filled up. Big Boss, 3:22 in Oklahoma. Coy Lynn, how you doing? Backdoor, how you doing? Warrior Poet, Jace Medical is supposed to be good. Never tried it myself. Yeah, all the prepper channels talk about that for the antibiotic, the emergency antibiotic kit they got. And I've heard that they do other medications as well. And so yeah, any way that you guys could get it done to get extra medication, because there is so much medication that flows that way, that goes through the Red Sea, up through the Mediterranean. All that stuff comes from, I was looking at some medication that I had here that I had to take when I was had my bowel surgery. And I was looking on that. That's made in China. And it was like the super, super duper fine print. I was reading the back of it. I picked that up, and I said, if I had known that was a made in China, I would have never even bought it. Coylin, it is 479 in Southwest Michigan. I can see it definitely heading to that. Coney B, really strange that you brought up meds. Wally called me today and asked if I wanted to fill my scripts in the mail, even though it is 3 days early and 4 days on another. Yeah, and there has been a lot of internet issues in our local area here. Different businesses and stuff are having internet problems. A couple of the bigger chain stores, again, today I talked to a lot of people and they were having problems with internet today as well. So, you know, keep a little cash on hand just so you don't have to go anywhere. I mean, this last weekend I didn't really work and we didn't really go anywhere. We just laid low, saved gas, went through the stuff in the pantry and just kind of laid low. And that is kind of what I am doing for the foreseeable future because of what's going on. We're just doing the stuff that's absolutely necessary because, I'm looking at this as something can pop off at any given time. And, I'm not one to get concerned too much about things, but there's definitely things about this whole military action that's got me concerned. Warrior Poet, tell your pharmacy previous script was stolen or lost and you need a replacement. I've heard of people doing that with mixed results. I've heard some people say it was no big deal, and then of course it depends a little bit on what the medication is as well. So, kind of that's something that each person's got to decide whether or not to do it, to do it for themselves. Hey there, Josh, how you doing? Oh yeah, no problem, man, bros. Like I said, no problem at all on the RX. Like I said, that's just what I do. I'm just sharing the stuff that I do and the stuff that we do here, the stuff that has worked over the years. And I flat out ask my doctor different times, hey, put extra refills in there so I can get extra refills because I like to have that stuff on hand. I don't dive into it, say, hey, I'm a prepper and this and that. I just say, hey, you know what? Shit happens. I want to have some stuff if extra things go down. Karen Levy, my insurance company said there are only one or two local pharmacies I can use and be covered. Yeah, and that is where the insurance companies dictate to you, Karen, what they can do. And if it is a medication that is not terribly expensive, I would shop around. I would call around some other pharmacies and I'd say, "Hey, is there a way that I could pay cash for these prescriptions at your establishment here?" And I would leave the insurance company right out of it because that's basically what we're doing. We're leaving the insurance companies right out of it. I figure, if I my copay on my medications is like $4, and if the prescription's $34, yeah, it's $30 out of my pocket. It's $30 that I could spend elsewhere. But you know what? It's more of a peace of mind thing that I have. I would rather have that stuff here than have to worry about some of that stuff. If there was some type of bad situation. But it's one of those things where I kind of don't take no for an answer. I keep trying to find other ways to source some of this stuff because I think that that's basically extortion. They're forcing when they say, "Oh well, the insurance says you can only go to this establishment here." I mean, if any other person would do that, or if individuals would do that to other individuals, that'd be extortion. That'd be against the law. But when an insurance company does it to pharmacies and stuff, oh, that's just our policy. And that, to me, that's all BS. That's complete and total BS. And I hate it when they do that to people because you know what? It's just the average people like you and me, Karen, that basically, we're the ones that suffer. Sorry, I'm getting off on a ranty tangent there, but it's the truth. Didn't get the snow and the blizzard. Country living. We're staying here in central Minnesota. We got it. We got the snow. We got like 6, 8 inches, like right now, like in just a few hours, and then it switched over to rain. It rained, and then everything melted, and then it became just a complete sloppy mess. Dog bite 349 upstate New York. I hope it stays that way. Monkey Food Garden. We used a small local pharmacy, always less expensive than the big guys, and I can get my fishing tackle, ammo, hunting supplies at the same time. Yeah, I've switched everything. I hate to say this, but I have switched everything that I possibly can to our local community. So all my stuff, when we need to purchase like meat or, prescriptions, or I need to get parts, that kind of stuff, I have pretty much transitioned over to get all that stuff in my local community, all within a mile of my home. Because if something goes down, I want those businesses around me to still be there. And I want them to know me, and I want them to know that I'm one of their good customers. So I'm, when things go down and maybe some of that stuff gets curtailed a little bit, I want them to know my face when I walk in there. So I hopefully that makes sense. Another thing that I got lined up for tomorrow, I'm having the oil changed in all our vehicles. I talked to my local shade tree mechanic, and I have, I had the oil stockpiled here. Uh, Most of the oil that we use is Mobil One's full synthetic Mobil One, and I purchased a fair amount of that when 5-quart jugs were $22 a jug. Now they're like 27.50, and we're going to go through probably about 5 jugs of oil to change the oil in our vehicles. That's 25. That's about $25 that I'm saving, which for some people that's an hour's labor right there, saved from getting that stuff before the prices went up. And I continually troll around looking for the lower prices to stockpile the stuff that I know that we're going to use anyway. At the way things are looking, I think you're going to be better off to have actual hard stuff and have hard merchandise, um, compared to money, because the prices are just constantly going up. Deb Smith, here in Hawaii, our gas prices are high, $5 pushing 6. Yeah, because Hawaii, they have to bring everything in. Candace, our internet went down at work today. Provider didn't offer a reason. Yeah, that's the same thing that we've been getting here too. Alpina, Jody from Michigan. Alpina relatives just got power and heat back. No internet yet. They're in my thoughts and prayers. Everybody up north are in my thoughts and prayers for sure. Uh, Fluffy 10 paid $3.99 today in Southeast Michigan. Yeah, I actually filled up before the price went up. I think I paid $3.69 to top off my truck while my truck's still full, because I basically only drove a mile to work and a mile home today. So I didn't use very much gas out of it. Hey there, AR American, how you doing? Monkey Food Garden, 100% agree with that. Plus, we pay big money for the same RX that's $2 in other countries. Oh yeah, yeah. Coney B, Monkey Food Garden, did you forget a freeze last night? We covered everything and ran taps. Dirt Farmer, it was $3.99 today in Tuscola County. Tuscola County, that's what ours is right here too, is $3.99. Dirt Farmer, and it went up. It was less last night, and it went up today. Scott Easy, $3.75 in South New Jersey. Warrior Poet 100 watching and only 7 thumbs up. You know what? All you guys could hit a thumbs up, and I'm sure that YouTube would find a way to turn that the other way. Okay, Karen Riggin, how you doing? Centerville, Tennessee. Good to see you. Dirt Farmer purchased a 12-quart box to stock. I think I might go the box. I know where I could maybe get a bit of a deal on the Mobil One and the boxes, and we were thinking about going with something like that. It's just that the jugs are so convenient for us to store and to use. The boxes, then you have to have a separate container to put them in if you want to pour it into the vehicle and stuff, if you're down a quart of oil or whatnot. But that's kind of the thing. Hey there, Scout. I've been putting more petroleum products each time I go to the store. I think that's a darn good idea. But yeah, I got it all lined up here to get all our oils changed tomorrow. Like I said, um, a shade tree mechanic, if that's, people talk about prepping groups and, have a prepping group for this or that or whatever. Folks that you should know in your local area, you should have a independent mechanic that you could deal with, even if he doesn't fix anything and everything. But if he can do smaller repairs, like maybe change an alternator, do a brake job, do oil changes for you, trust me, the amount of money that you're paying that guy is worth it, because he'll be there for you if things go down. And the same thing with like a plumbing or an HVAC guy, somebody that can work on like a furnace if a furnace goes down. I'm pretty handy around the house here, but you know what? It's sometimes you need professional advice or help on things. And if you already have somebody kind of that you do business with on a regular basis, something goes down, something goes sideways, they're more likely to take care of you than a complete stranger if something goes down. So that's another kind of person that I always keep a couple people on my radar. And for me, I got a shade tree mechanic that was a friend of the family for quite some time. And then the same thing, I have a local plumbing and heating place that I do probably 99% of my business. Even if I need like small parts or something, I will go there, even though it might be a couple of dollars more for that stuff. I will pay that little bit extra. So I have that place as a source to get stuff if I need, because you know what? As good a prepper as I think I am, there's always stuff that comes up that's unexpected that you didn't think of. You know, that's how I got spare parts for my furnace, was by going to this place, you know. And I had a couple problems several years ago with my furnace, and you know, they replaced a few things, and then they said, you know, these are the kind of things that might give you problems in the future. And I said, well, you know, maybe I should keep some of them parts here. And they're like, you know what, we have some parts that we took out of other furnaces when people had furnaces replaced and stuff, and we got used parts here. You know, we'll give you a couple of these used parts for like 20-30 bucks. And then I put those parts here, and then if that furnace, my furnace does that same thing again, I've got those used parts here that I can throw in there and repair that stuff myself. You know, that to me, that's prepping. That's what prepping is right there. And that's the kind of stuff that I kind of want to share my experiences with, so you guys can possibly look into that to give yourself, you know, give yourself a little bit of an advantage when the inevitable SHTF does happen. Patriot Preacher, we just got our power back here last night after 72 hours. Learned some things about the preps and spent some money at Amazon. We did okay, but we'll do better next time, you know. And that's the thing. Anytime something like that happens, you got a power outage, you got some kind of other problem, storm, whatever, it's always good to do like a mental after action report to see if you can't do something to, you know, improve your situation from what has been, you know, what's been going on. Big Boss, MR, does Michigan produce a lot of oil and petroleum? There are a lot of refineries across the St. Clair River over in Ontario. And while I don't know 100%, I believe that we'd get a fair amount of petroleum that comes over the border from Ontario, from Canada here in Michigan. And then, you know, there are terminals where they bring in fuel too on the Great Lakes. And then, of course, you know, they bring stuff in by truck. And for us here in the Midwest, from what I've been told, we're always at the end of the line here in the Lower Peninsula of Michigan. We're kind of at the end of the supply line. That's why the fuel always costs a little bit more here in you know, Michigan's Lower Peninsula than it does in other parts of the country. There's been times, you know, when we drove out of state to either Indiana or Ohio or something, and then the you know, the prices are always a little bit cheaper. And I think that's because the stuff comes in, it's closer to the Ohio River, it's closer to the Mississippi River, you know, so that stuff can be brought in by barge and then dropped off. So that's kind of the my interpretation of that. Not sure if it's still on sale at Sam's Club. Had Mobile One on sale. Yeah, I the Mobile One, when we got it, it was 22, 5 quart jug was $22, and that was probably about the cheapest that I did see it. And like I said, right now, the last time I checked at the local, you know, big box store, they were 27. It were $27 and change. And I, you know, I'm glad that I had here, because I always try to keep at least enough motor oil here for one oil change for all the vehicles, plus enough if they use a quart in the, you know, in the meantime. And because we all use full synthetic oil, we stretch our oil changes out a little. We don't do the 3,000 miles. We stretch that out a little bit depending on, you know, what the economic situation is, or time factor or whatever. Try to keep you know, sometimes if the oil goes 5 to 6,000 miles, it doesn't really, it's not as important with the full synthetic oil compared to the just the regular motor oil. AR American, I'm getting out of Michigan as soon as I retire, hoping to get out in 6 years. Oh, um, if I wouldn't have been born and raised here where I'm at, I'd probably follow you, AR American. But, I'm getting pretty old and I've got a good, local network here. I got friends, I got family. I've been in this area my entire life. I would have to start over all brand new no matter where I was at. I would be the new guy in town, and gosh darn it, I'm getting too old for that. So as as time goes on, I'm just gonna hunker down and stay where I'm at. But you know what? I ain't giving up nothing, if you know what I mean, AR. I ain't giving up nothing. I don't care. It's, we've had this discussion as a family and as a neighborhood and pretty much as a community, law enforcement included with that. We ain't giving up nothing. That's just the way that it is, and they say, is that the hill you're going to on? Well, maybe it is, but we're not giving up nothing where we're at here. Anyway, hey, Dangerous Freedom, how you doing, my friend? Haven't seen you in a while. Good to see you. Michigan Silverback Marathon has a large refinery south of Detroit. I don't know what the status of the production. I haven't worked there in the last 20 years. Michigan does produce, yeah, natural gas. There is a lot of natural gas here. I've heard that multiple times. In fact, they actually, my woods that I show you guys when I go camping and whatever, they actually wanted to explore that for natural gas, and I didn't let them. They offered me a $7,000 contract. Gosh, that had to been about 13 years ago. They offered me $7,000, but I had to sign a contract that if they found anything, they could extract it, and whatever they had to build on my property to extract that, I had to let them do that, and it was for 99 years. And then the only thing that I would get out of the natural gas that they would extract out from underneath my land, I would have to pay for the refining and the taking to market and the marketing of that natural gas. That would all come out of my royalty that they paid me for. And then no matter what, if the property was sold or changed hands, it would have to continue to be in that contract or whatever. So for basically a $7,000 check, they could do whatever they wanted to do on your land for the next 100 years. And I said, yeah, no, that's not worth $7,000 to me. And the guy was like, oh man, I've never seen a contract where they've offered this much money before. And I'm like, dude, just save it. I'm not interested. And that was the end of the conversation. But I often think back to that, how many people, maybe fell for that deal. Big boss, no wonder gas is going up over there. If you all produce oil, you'd have leverage in the gas industry. Yeah. Devil's advocate, 5K to 7.5K miles is usually fine on mobile one full synthetic. Yeah, like I said, we float, I'd say between 5 and 7,000 miles is kind of what we float on, unless there was something that happened or something where they had to do a repair or something and then change it. But other than that, yeah, that's where we kind of stay. My Michigan Silverback, my Ford F-150 drinks so much oil I just changed the filters. Well, that's no good, especially especially on a 2019. Mine's a 2013 Silverado, and mine doesn't use any oil. One of our other four-wheel drives does. And then there's another vehicle that we got that's a little bit older than mine that uses a little bit of oil, but you just never know. You start pushing 6 and 7,000. You should probably check the oil at least to make sure that you're up to where you need to be. Yeah, 10 years ago they called preppers crazy. Yeah, we're all crazy, but I don't know, crazy like a fox maybe. Michigan Silverback. I agree, MR. Our home in our area is our. Yeah, it's true. That's kind of how I look at it. I'm not moving. It's just I am where I am. This is where I was born and raised, and that's just how it is. Dangerous Freedom doing all right. Been busy fixing cars, writing books, and getting some preliminary stuff in order. Awesome. Going to run for county commissioner. Well, I wish you the best of luck, sir. I had people tell me that I need to run for mayor here in my town, and I'm like, yeah, no, I'm not into that pilot, because the mayor that we got right now, they've had a lot of issues. They've done a lot of things that the local folks here are kind of like, yeah. And the thing was, is this person, they moved out of the area a long time ago and then came back, run for mayor, won, and they got a little bit different mindset now than what some of the local peoples are. But anyway, Coney B, now we have trolls that chase preppers to get attention. I hate ugly people cruising my channels. I love, yeah. I've had some snide comments that people have done, but they don't last long. If somebody's got disagrees and they say, hey, we don't like this, or we do it different, or whatever, I usually get a little blowback on some of my canning because I don't always follow the exact canning rules. I get a little blow. I always let those comments ride. There's no problem with that kind of stuff. But when you start, name calling and that kind of stuff, I don't go for that. If you got something constructive to say, you either for or against, I don't have a problem with that one way or another. But you're not going to start calling, people that I've known for years on my channel that leave comments. If people think that they're going to start calling my commenters and my subscribers and stuff names and BS, whatever, yeah, no, you're flight 19 in a heartbeat. And if you guys don't remember, I mentioned this in one of my first live streams. That's what I call it when I ban somebody. I call it flight 19, because they are never heard from again. And that's how I look at that. Yeah, kick rocks for $7,000 for 100 years. Yeah, it was a 99 year contract. And I said, yeah, that's just way, way too much. Patriot Preacher, prepping is good for the mental health. People thought I was crazy for having stored water after a 72-hour power outage. Apparently recovered. Not so crazy. Now, all the old timers, if there was an ice storm or a bad snowstorm coming, they'd fill up all the pots and pans, and they would fill up their bathtub. And a lot of these people, they had hand pumps outside, so that was a fair amount of work to fill up all your pots and pans and fill up the bathtub. They'd stop up the bathtub and they'd fill that right up. I seen it multiple times. Hey, always survive. Good to see you there. I listened to your chat there that you had on Mike Tango Whiskey's channel. You had a good little conversation there. Big boss, I deleted and blocked the guy in the chat earlier for talking foul. Oh yeah, I don't put up for that. Yeah, like I said, if you disagree, that's fine and dandy. That's what America is a bunch of people getting along that disagree with each other. But you know what? You're not gonna belittle my subscribers and stuff. That is not gonna happen. Michigan Silverback, a quart at 3,000 K. Ford says that's normal. Plasma line cylinders, it's like spray, not a sleeve. Yeah, no, using a quart every 3,000, that's not normal in my book anyway. Hey, Don here, how you doing? AR Stoner, that's quite the name, AR Stoner. So are you like a are you like a stoner like Eugene Stoner, or are you some other kind of stoner? Inquiring minds want to know. Warrior Poet. Oh yeah, the bathtub bob. I got one of those bobs too, and I don't have a bathtub. I don't know. I don't remember where I got it. I think I got it for really cheap, but I figured I could have used it for something anyway. Monkey Food Garden. I'm out on another channel and one live. It was all I could do to keep up with the trolls. Ruins it for everyone. Yeah, yeah. No, I don't. Because most of the people that comment on my channel, if they comment, they're commenting, information or tips or stuff that can help other people. And that is what I want on my channel. I want people to interact and share what they know, because I don't know everything. I'll be the first to admit that. And, I learned stuff almost every live stream. I learned something that I didn't know before I even started. And I keep, that's what I want to perpetuate. I share what I know and my experiences, and you guys all do the same. That's why, the prepping community on YouTube, I think, is as good as it is. You're not going to find a better community on YouTube, in my opinion, than the people in the small to medium prepping channels. Northern Girl Hobbies recently filled the bathtub for the crazy storm. Yeah, I actually got some people I know that are over in Ontario right now that are they are over there fishing, and I was wondering if that wind was going to mess with them on the ice. But I'm curious to see what it was like over there when they come back. I'm hoping that I should be able to talk to them here this weekend. But they were going over there ice fishing. I remember when others were the old timers. Now it's me. Yeah, me too, Coney. Very much so. Michigan Silverback. My uncle got a sweet deal on with a Verizon. Well, yeah, the cell towers. Then the thing around here is the windmills. The windmills. A lot of the windmills are put up there. It's on farmland. But the bad thing about that is when people signed up for those, when those windmills have reached the end of their service life and have to be demolished, the landowner has to pay for that. And, I'm sure, 30 years from now, when they reach the end of their service life, and most of these windmills that have been up for 10 years around here by us. So, that's only 20 more years yet. The people that own those farms and stuff, their grandchildren are the ones that are going to have to pay to have those things tore down off their property. And that was the one thing that was on those contracts when they signed in on them, when they started putting those things in here for those wind farms. Yeah, there's always a negative downside to that stuff. That ain't just free money. Big boss, I'm some other kind of stoner. Hey, each to their own. AR Stoner. Have you heard of the brand AR Stoner? Yeah, I think I have, because I does I want to say Midway USA carries some of that stuff, AR Stoner brand. Tell me if I'm wrong. You're a prepper. I hope you have. Uh I have a couple anti-personnel devices, if you want to put it that way. I probably got a couple of videos on them too. Not everything, but the stuff that I feel is important to the prepping community. Dog bite. I was reading an article saying Michigan and the Rust Belt states are the new place to be. People are running from natural disaster states. Yeah, that ain't that ain't wrong. Hey, Hudson Valley, good to see you. We're still on for this weekend. We're going to be doing a round table. Hudson Valley's hosting a round table, and I'm going to be part of that. I'm thinking it's going to be Saturday night, and then Sunday night I'm going to do my regular live stream like I always do. Oh yeah, the windmills and the solar farms. There is, we have one solar farm that's in our county that I know of, and they cut down an orchard, beautiful apple orchard. They cut down an orchard to put in a solar farm. Yeah, not yeah, very not too happy about that. And the windmills, that was all subsidized. And then that was all subsidized by the government. And now the electricity that they produce isn't even here locally. They ship all that electricity that's produced by those windmills right out of Michigan. So I have to sit here and look at the things, and I get literally nothing out of it. Feed monkey. They found a skeleton in a cave in Somerset, UK, and found out it was from around 7,000 BC. Through DNA, found a local teacher that was a direct descendant. So in 10,000 years, that family moved 6 miles. That's an interesting. That's an interesting little comment there. Did not know that. Dirt farmer, we did not sign up for windmills and didn't want anything to do with it. Yeah, nobody around here did. And I tried to even go and vote on it. They wouldn't let me vote because I didn't live in the right section of the map to vote. Even though I have property in that section, they wouldn't allow me to vote. They said, nope, you can't vote. So yeah, that was crazy. Hey there, Washburn. How you doing? Peter of Barbaria. Haven't found any Australian real prepper channels over here. Gosh, there's a couple folks that I follow from Australia, but they're not what I would call. They're not really prepping channels. They're more like I guess you would call like little home or farmstead channels. Gallo, things are weird, and I'm not seeing any of the chat. Just some things, even stuff I put up doesn't show. Yeah, that sounds like YouTube playing their games like normal. Uh, yeah, yep. That's what I thought. That this was the weekend there, Hudson Valley. Looking forward to it. Hey there, roaming prepper. Good to see you. Roaming is another one of our guys that we hang out with there on the old YouTube. He's always got good information on his channel as well. Uh, yeah, I don't know why Stoner there. I don't know why they can't figure out something different to do with those solar panels. But man, oh man, I remember that orchard. We used to take the kids to that orchard when they were little, and in October and stuff, get a gallon of cider or whatever. And when I found out they cut that orchard down for that, I was livid. Yeah, applewood. Yeah, I save the applewood from my tree. When I trim my apple tree, that gets all put up for the smokehouse. Washburn, my brother was snowed in Frederick. Frederick's a small town in the northern lower. He had to hike out about a mile to the main road. I believe they probably needed snowshoes too. Yeah, Eugene Stoner was an amazing individual. Oh yeah. He's pretty much in every household out in the country here now. Yeah, I don't know what's going on, Gallo. I'm seeing everybody's stuff here. Everything seems to be working. Dangerous green, self-sufficient me. Yeah. I try to be as self-sufficient as I can. There's some things you can't be, but I try to do as much as I possibly can. Yeah, Gallo, I'm not sure what's going on with the chat. Rip Curl Readiness Homestead. Haas is a good one to check out. I'll have to check that one out. He's more of a suburban gardener than a real prepper. Well, you know what? Suburban gardeners are okay too. There were people that my father-in-law's mother, she would go around with a little red wagon into the to the people in the neighborhood that they lived in Bay City, Michigan, and they would ask, "Hey, are you going to use those pears that are on the ground or whatever, or grapes that were growing?" And that's how they got a lot of their people. Just gave it to them because they had what they needed. They didn't want to see the rest of it go to waste, and a lot of that. Then she would take that all back home and she would process all that. Nathaniel Heavyfoot, facts, wide experience and wisdom, collect all. Oh yeah, I'm perpetually a student. I try to be perpetually a student. I would love to have a Stoner 68. I think we all would. I read a book and it was about Navy SEALs in Vietnam, and I don't remember what the name of the book was. And the one guy, that's what he used. And I remember the one thing I remembered about him. He said whenever he went out on a patrol or whatever, when they got back, he never reused that ammunition because he said, that ammunition could have got contaminated with water or mud or whatever. And they were stationed on the Bosic River, and the Bosic River was one of the rivers that came into the Mekong Delta. And he said that when they got back from the mission, he would always take his ammunition that he had and he would throw that in the Bosic, so that couldn't get reused, or another soldier or guy could draw that ammunition out and then have something wrong with it because it had already been out in the field. So whenever they went back out, he always drew brand new out of the box ammunition. They never reused ammunition after a patrol, and I thought that was kind of an interesting little thing that I read there. Washborn Billy, help me out. What is a stoner? A stoner was a light machine gun, sort of similar to what I guess nowadays, like um, a 249 saw. It was similar to that. It was a light machine gun. It was basically that's what it was. It was a light machine gun, kind of like a 249 saw. A little bit. It looked a little bit differently, but that's what it was. And but they were small enough that guys could carry them, and you didn't have to have like a little bigger machine gun like an M60. Usually had like a couple of guys to operate that, where the stoner just one guy could operate that. And like I said, if the AR American or some of the other gun guys that are on here that know a lot more than I do, if they're still on here yet, they can maybe correct me if I'm saying anything wrong on that or different. It's the fourth time I've tried. YouTube is really messing with me. I'm sorry, Gallo. I wish there was something I could do here on my end to help you out. But I appreciate you being here and I appreciate you trying. But if it's difficult and you can't get anything out of it, I understand, man. If you got to bounce, it's all good, sir. I appreciate you always being here. But yeah, the medication, that was the other thing, I wanted to kind of mention. I wanted to tell you about those folks there in Palestine that are basically, they're stuck. They can't get out of there. Fuel prices are constantly on the upswing. I haven't seen anything. I haven't seen the rec fuel prices change yet, but the rec fuel prices were always a couple dollars higher than the regular. I haven't seen that change yet at the local places here, but that is some of the other stuff that has been going on. And I have been going through my pantry. There's some stuff that I pitched. There's some stuff that I replaced. There's some stuff that we moved right to the front of the list. We're going to get that stuff used. And, I've got pretty much my menu for the next 4 or 5 days is all directly out of our pantry. Like tonight, everything that we made for dinner tonight, that was right out of the pantry. Yep, Stoner 63. It's a 63. I was only asking, trying not to be rude. That's all good. It's all good, man. Yeah, like I said, I know, and they just called it a stoner, if I remember right in that book. They didn't put a number or anything on it. They just called it straight up a stoner. But yeah, I've been working on the AK. I got that kind of up and running the way I wanted to. Now I'm kind of happy with that all turned out. The stuff that I've done on that. Probably had some. I had a guy I work with. He cut a bunch of firewood out of my woods, so that's good to go. Those are like kind of the whole give and take thing, and I've gotten a lot of eggs from him, so that's that's kind of the whole bartering deal. Um, that's kind of the whole bartering deal. I got free eggs from him, let him cut some firewood. That's how the whole barter, prepping group, small town community thing. That's how it all works. Feather Monkey, I appreciate that very much. Thank you so much. Like I said, I really appreciate you doing that. I uh, I always try to put out stuff that people can get some use out of all the time. I try to make my videos so they're stuff that ordinary folks can benefit from. I appreciate that though, Feeder Monkey, very much. Warrior Poet, I don't know if the seals even had numbers associated with it. They gave zero. Oh yeah, yeah, very much so. Hey Teresa, oh I see my post this time. Stoner to me was a pothead. Yeah, yeah, Karen. Yeah, me too. That's the other stoner I was thinking of. Uh, yeah, that was the other stoner I was thinking of. But yeah, that was a thing. Like I said, there were special units in Vietnam that used those kind of squad. They were squad weapons. Some of the other things that anything with plastic in it with this ongoing problems, securing petroleum is going to be more expensive, and I think it's going to fall down to pretty much everything straight across the board because the two things that I really when I look at how things are going and this conflict in the Middle East and the curtailing of, 20%, because that's always the number they throw out is 20% of the world's petroleum goes through there. One, of course, is the fuel to deliver everything, because everything is delivered. So the fuel, that figures into the cost and the price of all of that. And then the other thing is packaging. All packaging nowadays, more or less, is some type of plastic, and petroleum is a part of plastic manufacturing. So you got your transportation costs, and your packaging costs are affected by the price of petroleum. That's everything. That's everything right straight across the board. And even, getting stuff from like Amazon and stuff, all that stuff's either got to come through the mail or it's got to come through, UPS or whatever. And that price of fuel dictates all of that stuff. And that is what, I am concerned where prices are going to go up. I can honestly say right now, everything that, my wife and I have purchased in the last like 5 years since, 2020, I cannot say that I've regretted purchasing anything that we've purchased. Like last spring, a year ago, and I did some videos and stuff on that too, because the whole tariffs and all that stuff that was going on at that particular time, and that is affecting prices too. And one of the things that I've been seeing more and more recently is the price of ammunition is being affected by those tariffs, because the copper and the brass and stuff that they're bringing in to manufacture, civilian ammunition is, that stuff has got an added tariff cost on that now. But things like last year, I went and got I got a coffee maker. I went and got us another crock pot. We've got several crock pots here because, a crock pot is one of my SHTF food cooking techniques. We've got a generator here. One of the outlets in our kitchen I have hooked up to our transfer switch so if I have the generator running, I can run a crock pot. And a crock pot is something that if I have multiple, something happens and the whole family congregates here at our place, I have enough capability to cook for everybody. And those crock pots are part of my, prepping plan. So I said, you know what, the price of these crock pots is not going to come down. All of that stuff's made overseas. So I went ahead and purchased some of that stuff. Shoes is another one. In the last year or so, I bought multiple pairs of shoes just to put up, just to have them here, wear them, make sure that they fit good, whatever, throw the box out, and then put them here for spares. Because you know what? That's another thing. All of that is brought in. All of that is imported, and I've got even stuff here to repair shoes. I bought a couple tubes of shoe goop where I could glue a sole back on or whatever, because I don't know, if SHTF happens, I don't know how long it's going to last. Look at the Great Depression. That lasted 10 years. Look at World War II. There was rationing after World War II. World War II ended. There was still rationing. And if Scottish preppers would still be in here, I'm sure he could probably tell you that too, because uh, they had rationing, I want to say, in the UK until like 1950. The World War II was over with for 5 years, and they're still rationing stuff because they were trying to get caught up. I can see where these things, just from different things that my grandmother told me and the other old timers that lived in this town, there were times it was hard to get a hold of stuff like that. And some people that had those things, they had the stuff before the war because they had enough foresight to realize, hey, this stuff is going down. We need to have this stuff. Like the other story I always tell was the old guys that went deer hunting during World War II. They couldn't get ammunition during World War II. The ammunition that they had to go deer hunting with, they had before the war started. They purchased that stuff. And then because there were farmers, they had the fuel ration cards, so they could go and purchase fuel, so they could actually drive into northern Michigan, so they could shoot a few deer and bring that venison back here. And if they didn't have that, they wouldn't have been able to get the fuel to go up there. And that was another thing that Scottish prepper mentioned in that video. um, was it Sri Lanka was one? They're tracking how much fuel you purchase by a QR code that you have to scan on your phone. I've mentioned that in videos before, that if there's any rationing that goes on, it's going to be all electronic. It's going to be all electronic, and it's going to be on these things right here. So that is That unfortunately, that's how I can see things going. And then Pakistan was the other one. Pakistan, they said that they were going to a 4-day work week to conserve petroleum. Jody from Michigan, thanks for the chat. I appreciate this group. Hey, Jody, I appreciate just being here. Like I said, I appreciate the interaction, and I appreciate the interaction, and you guys taking some time out of your guys' busy lives to spend it here. Very much so. Oh yeah, Scout. A high percentage of the world's urea goes through the straits too, for many things, including. Oh yeah, and what then during with Ukraine and stuff, a lot of the gunpowder and the nitrocellulose and stuff that's going to artillery shells, not civilian commercial ammunition. That was the other thing. Gallo, still not working, but thanks for all the help. Yeah, I wish I had an answer for you, Gallo. Curious how much power a crock pot uses. It takes 2% of my charge to make a pot of coffee, and I have a pretty good size generator. Coffee makers use a ton of electricity. I remember when I looked up the wattage requirements when I was figuring out for my generator how much wattage that I needed, and then you have that kick in, like when a freezer kicks on, you have a spike. So you have to have enough wattage to cover that spike on top of um, the running amount of the watts. I guess that's the easiest way that I can explain. I'm sure I'm not using the right terms or anything, but a coffee maker uses a ridiculously high amount of electricity. But a crock pot is the opposite of that. I remember, I don't know if it's out of an old Popular Mechanics magazine or whatever, but I remember that was one of the selling points on a crock pot when they first come out, that they didn't use as much electricity, and it would be easier on your electric bill because it uses a very low amount of electricity over a longer period of time instead of like turning on your electric stove or whatever. So it was actually a selling point for those crock pots when they were first made, and that's why when I said when I'm in our kitchen, I have an electric stove, but in our kitchen, the two outlets that I ran to the transfer switch on our generator is, of course, the refrigerator, and then that one electrical outlet on the counter that I can plug the crock pot in, and I could still use that if the generator is running. And then the other appliance that I really wanted to have hooked up, other than the furnace, because the furnace is hooked into the generator too, but the other thing is the wash machine in case we had to wash clothes. I can figure out how to dry clothes, primitively, basically. We can make a clothesline out back, or we can make a rack if it's wintertime to put down here in the basement somewhere. But I want the wash machine to run to clean our clothes, because if it's an SHTF event and everything there's no electricity and whatever, and you're outside working your tail off all day in the summertime, your clothes are going to be sweaty and filthy and dirty. I want to be able to wash that stuff. And it's kind of a hygiene thing as well, and I want, of course, that clothing to last, so I want to be able to wash that. So that was the other appliance that I made sure that we had hooked into our transfer switch. Yes, backup appliances when they're available and cheap. Yeah, and I wish I still had some of the old school stuff that my grandparents had. Like, we had a wood cook stove in our house when we were growing up, and then my grandmother over on the old farm, they had a wringer washer. And that was another thing. Once a week, mom would take me over there when I was like 3 years old. Mom would take me over there, and they would do laundry in that old wringer washer. I still remember that quite a bit. They had that was a whole day when they did laundry. That was a laundry. That was a all day thing. Oh yeah, cast iron Dutch ovens. Love making bread and pizza, and that's another thing. I have pizza stones, and that's something I don't think I've ever done a video on either. But a pizza stone They were popular back 15, 20 years ago. You put them in the oven and then, you can bake your bread on it. And yeah, that works good too, but they work in grills too. And I had a pizza stone. I would keep the grill on a lower temperature and, I would split it because grills have, multiple burners. I would put the two side burners on. I would put that pizza stone in the center, heat the pizza stone up, and I would actually bake bread in my grill on those pizza stones, and it worked. It wasn't quite like the oven, but it was close enough where you could bake small loaves of bread and stuff like that too. Uh, Kelly, I'm keeping notes on appliances use the most power. Going to have to cook a crock pot dinner and see how the generator does on the weekend. Yeah, and I'll tell you what, if you come back on one of my live streams, put your results in there. I'd like to know. I really would. That would be something that would be definitely interesting. My smaller crock pot is 120 watts. I want to say my larger one is 300. That sounds about that sounds about right. Oh, I love cooking on a wood stove. I've cooked both on my wood stove out in the garage and I've cooked in it. There's been different times where I put my smaller Dutch cast iron Dutch oven right in there and put the coals and stuff around it and cooked actually in it because my wood stove's an old Franklin wood absorber that opens up like a um like a fireplace. So I can actually, put stuff in there too. Dog butt, I have a ringer washer with kickstart 4-stroke Briggs. That's cool. Oh yeah, analog. And that's the problem is, my mother refugee and we've been talking about getting a new pickup truck because my pickup truck is 13 years old. It's got, 210,000 miles on it, starting to rust out pretty bad. And we're kind of deciding, do we want to do we want to take on another payment and get something a little bit more reliable? And I want basically a work truck. I want the least amount of electronic stuff in it as absolutely possible. And we have a truck like that where I work, one of our work trucks, and it has no TV screen on it or whatever, and everything's still got analog gauges and analog speedometer and all that other stuff on there. And but the thing of it is it's a 1-ton pickup truck. I really don't need a 1-ton pickup truck, but they're going to be the more heavy duty, less electronic stuff that's probably going to last longer. So, we're kind of weighing our options, what we want to do. But I think that that's probably what I'm going to go for. I'm going to probably get a larger work truck, basically, so I can get as much use out of it as I possibly can. Hopefully, 20 years. So, we're kind of leaning to maybe it's going to be the last new vehicle that I'm ever going to buy. Oh yeah, stainless steel percolator. Oh, those are good. And I have multiple coffee grinders because I actually can grind wheat and stuff with those coffee grinders. Yeah, an antique coffee grinder is one of the best things you can have. Uh, yeah, and then my adult children, they like those French presses where you put the water in with the coffee grounds. So they just heat up the hot water and they put that in. They say that makes better coffee. Man, I don't really care as long as I get a cup of coffee in the morning. I don't care how it's made as long as it's hot and it's ready to go. 3D Scout. A good tool to have is a kilowatt meter, like $25. Tell you how many watts and amps a device draws. That's good to know. Devil's advocate regarding a new pickup truck a few years old and as simple as they come, engine management, transmission, as good as they're going to look for a 1-ton. Yeah, like I said, this one that they bought it. It's a 24, and the boss bought it new because he's got it hooked up for the snowplow and stuff. But I like driving it. It's a good vehicle. It's a solid vehicle. It's got a lot of power, and it's just simple. It's got the simple things, and I wish that you could just get half-ton trucks like that anymore, but you just can't. Those half-ton trucks, they got a big old TV screen in there, and all you start it up, all this. Yeah, I can't stand it. Uh, Yeah, Jody from Michigan, my grandma had ringer washers too. I remember running around when I was a kid, and mom and grandma they were using that ringer washer. Northern Girl, you have a good night too. I am getting ready to shut this one down here, but it's good having you on here, Northern Girl. I appreciate you. Appreciate you stopping by. Karen Reagan, as you age, those beefy trucks are hard to get in and out of. Oh yeah, my wife and I have already talked about that, Karen. We definitely are going to have running boards on the next one that we can get in and out of. Washburn Billy, I watched a video last night about old trucks that would still run after an EMP. I'd if I had the money, I wouldn't mind an old square box Chevy, but I don't have the money to have a truck just just for a whim. But if I did have the money, I would probably get me an old, in this old 70s Chevy square box. I always loved those trucks. Well, folks, been on here an hour and 10 minutes, and we had a really good chat again tonight. Like I said, I wanted to discuss some of those things. I am going to be on the chat there, the roundtable with Hudson Valley on Saturday. Not sure what the time's going to be yet, but when I got something definite figured out here with them, I will put a post in the community section so you guys know. And then Sunday night, I am going to have my regular weekly live chat again with you guys. But I wanted to just jump on here and talk about a few things here tonight. Appreciate each and every one of you guys stopping in and spending an hour here with me tonight. Just had some things that I wanted to kind of go over with you guys again here. But you know what? Just keep an eye on things that's going on. There's a lot of stuff going on, and there's a lot of things where there could be some serious problems going down here. And I want everybody to be as prepared as possible. But I appreciate each and every one of you guys very much so. And you guys take care out there.